Do you like damage, but you hate dying? Well, so do I. In 3.17, my plan is to start in hardcore trades, and therefore I'm looking for a build that can both do maps, clear well, and do bosses. And maybe be league start viable. You know, not one of those builds that tell you to get unnatural instinct. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. I've been looking at Explosive Arrow Hero Fan before, and I've been actually playing it in the Delirium Hardcore SSF events, and I've been doing quite well with it. I managed to hit rank 2 on the ladder with a hit-based version of this build, but that version got kind of destroyed with the nerf to Hydrosphere, which now doesn't allow you to hit it more than once per second. It's kind of dead. So they did change Explosive Arrow though, and now we get a 5% multiplier for every fuse we stick to an enemy. So with 20 fuses, that's 100% more damage with the Ignite. And even though Ignites overall got a 28% change to, or rather nerf, to their damage, we will still end up with more damage than what we have right now. So I've been tinkering a lot, and this is the result. Let me present you my POV for Explosive Arrow Ignite Hero fans. We're playing with Ballistae, meaning this is a bow build and we will require a lot of dexterity and travel. So this is not something that you start using from like Act 3 onwards. You will actually have to wait a bit, presumably until you hit maps. But if you can do that and just bear with the Holy Flame Totems playstyle, or if you do prefer with Armageddon Brand, for example, or Cremation, then you can make this work. So what's the big idea? Explosive Arrow is a skill which shoots an arrow. If this arrow hits an enemy, it will stick and apply debuff for a second, after which if we add more arrows to the same target, we add fuses. With every fuse we add, the explosion gets bigger that results. At 5, we're already at 600k, at 10, we're hitting 1.2 million Ignite DPS, and at 20, we get the full 2.4 million in this current POB. So the goal is to stick as many arrows to the enemy as possible. How do we do that? We add a lot of totems. In this instance, we have 7 or 8 totems, depending on if we're using the Skirmish Unique Quiver or if we're going with a rare. A fact that works in our favor is that in 3.17 we get new quiver bases, which will give us elemental damage with attacks or even attack speed which we do need to actually hit that breakpoint. More about that later. And we use Frenzy to generate frenzy charges. Also boost up the face run over here so that we can map faster. And on top of that, we use Rot Gut, which gives us onslaught for 3 seconds per frenzy charge that we use, with an indefinite amount of frenzy charges that we can generate. That's pretty nice. And an often overlooked item, actually. The goal was we make something that is both tanky and can deal with all sorts of endgame situations, such as clearing maps, dealing single target damage, and not dying. How do we achieve that? We play as a hero fan, so we do get a lot of natural life regen and also armor thanks to a node down here called Ironwood. Get minimum endurance charges, which helps with the mid game, since if you check here, we're using Worm Sign, which make mapping a lot better. I'm going to show you a few clips from the Delirium event where I'm using these gloves, and it's actually great just how much in terms of movement speed and also attack damage they provide. The effects from Rampage with stuns and all, corpse removal also work greatly in our favor. So this is definitely something that you should aim for early on, and later you can replace them with some better gloves that give you stats that you want to have, like the reduced effect of chill and shock, for example. Apart from that, we make good use of our auras. We're using Determination, Grace, and Defiance banner, just because, you know, defense is kind of nice to have. Although you can make an argument for removing Grace if you're playing softcore and just adding Malevolence. Yield way better results in terms of the Ignite DPS. That is up to you. If you're playing softcore and you want to give this a go, you can switch that out and that's going to be fine. I'm gonna leave this in the POV just so you can play around with it, I guess. Apart from that, we utilize a few tags to make this even better. On the one hand, we have Searing Bond, which is a totem skill which gives you an extra maximum number of some totems. With the normal skill gem, you get 1 extra, and multi-totem has another 2. If you could get the Phantasmal version, you get 3, and with Enhance, you even manage to get past that and get even +5, resulting in up to +7, which in turn gives you a lot of extra life and mana regen, as well as more damage. The damage from those themselves doesn't really matter. You just get some basic dot. We don't scale this at all. It's just utility for bosses and nice thing to have. Other than that, we have Vile Molten Shell, pretty standard stuff. We run with 1 curse. You can run 2 if you want. The chest that I currently aim for is a Triumphant Lamellar, since it's both armor and evasion rating, with a blind aura, similar to what I had in the Delirium event, since this actually makes the build a lot more survivable, since not getting hit is not taking damage, and not taking damage means you don't have to mitigate anything, so there's that. You will notice that there are 2 different setups for Explosive Arrow here. Both go into the same slot, because one is before you get a Rain of Splinters jewel, and the other is after, where we manage to get rid of the GMP permanently and use faster attacks instead, which brings us closer to the breakpoint. This jewel is very relevant, and you should seek to buy this as soon as possible. The reduced totem damage does not really bother us. It's actually not important at all, the downside here, but the extra 2 projectiles do matter a lot for clearing. Apart from that, since we use a lot of rare items, it is super easy to cap our spell suppression. There's a little bit too much in this tree at the moment with this gear, just because I gave example items that you can aim for. The way the damage scaling works is we both use Elemental Overload, and the other part is using Elemental Equilibrium, which helps us with the exposure. This is due to the fact that Explosive Arrow deals physical damage on the arrow, and we just add some lightning or cold damage, and then we always get the fire exposure, which gets reset once the explosion happens, but gets reset immediately when another arrow hits. So there's that. Then a little thing about the breakpoints. You can find this in my notes section, which is quite extensive, as you can see here. I've been working on this quite a lot. There is a breakpoint at 20 fuses, and that is with 8 totems 1.39 attacks per second, and with 7 totems 1.59. There's about a 25% leeway that you can have here in case that your totems hit in sync. So that means, let's assume that all your totems fire at the same time, you hit the target, now you hit all of those arrows at the same time, and that's when the timer starts. So it's the average value, I would say, because something can always go wrong. Your totems can get slowed down. Chill is a thing, unfortunately. So if you have a map with chilled ground or a boss with who creates chilled areas, your attack rate on the totems will go down. So it's always good to consider having a little bit more than you need. In any case, though, this will be your target, and therefore you try to reach as close to the attack rate as you possibly can. For bosses early on, when you still run the GMP, you can make a swap and just add the faster attacks here instead. If this is not convenient to you, that is understandable, but if you want like the maximum amount of damage at every stage, you will want to run something like that. If you have an insane setup with like, let's say, a lot of these attack speed jewels that just bolster your attack rate quite a lot. You can even get rid of the faster attacks and get something like Swift Affliction, for example. So at that point, your DPS is going to be more than enough for any content in the game. In terms of recovery, we could run Vitality, but I don't feel the need to do so. Life Regen is sitting at 800 per second, which gets supplemented quite a bit by our ability to just place down those totems and run around. So what you try to do is not get into the middle of things and just play it safe. That way we get to a good level instead of trying to face tag things. Yeah, and with those thoughts, I will be league starting with this. You can find me at twitch.tv/artcrusader. I stream every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, probably a lot more on the league start. And we have a lovely community over there, which I'm sure you would fit right in. So if you want to see more content like this, make sure you leave a subscription on this channel, follow me on Twitch, and yeah, I wish all of you a good start with the league. I'm gonna leave the POB in the description, and I'm gonna see you then. Until then, peace out.